The cave is one of the most enduring images in world mythology, folklore, and religion. It is a spot of initiation where our ancient ancestors underwent shamanic journeys and immortalized their visions on ancient cave art. Mythologies hold that humans actually emerged from caves when they were first created. They are both portals to the underworld and sites of spiritual rebirth. There dwell the Taoist immortals and paradisal worlds. The cave has been associated with the womb and the heart. It is where the self goes to battle monsters, dragons, gnomes, spirits, and jinn, to emerge as a being of light. The cave is a symbol of the depths of the unconscious. It is below the earth, and it's a spot where the secrets of Aladdin's caves are revealed. It is a site of resurrection, where one might emerge changed, having confronted the powers of the deep. Montignac, France. In 1940, 18-year-old Marcel Ravida discovered a cave dating to around 17,000 years ago in the Magdalenian culture of Europe. Subsequent investigations of the cave uncovered strange paintings, some depicting therianthropes or human-animal composites. In a remote section of the cave where only one person can enter at a time, there is a painting of a bird-headed man with an erect penis hunting a bison. This scene has been interpreted as an image of sympathetic magic that depicts a shaman in trance performing a ritual of hunting magic. Images of shamanic journeys in ancient caves have been found elsewhere in France. The cave of Trois Frères, or a Three Brothers cave, named after the three brothers who discovered it in 1914, also features a famous therianthrope. This painting has become known as the sorcerer or the horned god, and is interpreted as a shaman. Dating back to 13,000 BCE, the sorcerer is depicted in the most remote portion of the entire complex. Caves were a place of paramount importance for our hominid ancestors. Archaeologists at the Rising Star Cave System in South Africa found evidence of burials done by Homo naledi some 250,000 years ago. Homo naledi would have made a harrowing journey to the very back of the cave in order to bury their dead. Neanderthals have been found to make fires deep inside the mysterious Bruniquel cave in France, where they too may have been burying their dead, which serves a deeply important ritualistic and religious function. The cave, archaeologically, is a site of initiation and shamanic visions. It is here that the shaman underwent their journeys and depicted them on the most sacred and inaccessible portions of the cave, only for the viewing of a select few. Having wandered some distance among gloomy rocks, I came to the mouth of a great cavern, in front of which I stood some time astonished. Bending back and forth, I tried to see whether I could discover anything inside, but the darkness within prevented that. Suddenly there arose in me two contrary emotions, fear and desire. Fear of the threatening dark cave, desire to see whether there were any marvelous thing within. The cave is immortalized in Western philosophy through Plato's allegory of the cave. Taking place in Book 7 of the Republic, Plato, through his philosophical mouthpiece Socrates, describes mankind as being unaware of the realm of forms, the immutable philosophical realm where the essence of all things live. He uses the allegory of the cave to describe his philosophy. In his allegory, a group of people sit shackled at the bottom of a cave in a way that they cannot look anywhere but right in front of them. Behind them, there is a fire and puppeteers. The puppets and the fire create shadows on the wall, which the prisoners mistake as reality. They think the shadows are the real thing, when in reality it is the puppets. If they were able to see through these illusions, the prisoners would also learn that there is a passage out of the cave, and that there is a higher reality outside. It is even possible, Plato suggests, that the prisoners would resist this revelation and desire to go back inside the cave. According to Plato, the goal of philosophy is to free oneself from the cave and to come in touch with that higher reality. It is reminiscent of Neo in the Matrix, and the desire of some of the people to plug back into the Matrix once they have gotten out. Understanding the world of forms is like Neo being aware of the Matrix. Behind this complex metaphysics is Plato's main point, that we attempt to give names to physical objects, but their reality is only understandable in the mind. It is a very Wittgensteinian approach to the limits of language. It is no mistake that Plato chose to use the cave as the ultimate representation of how his philosophy operates. Bear up, my child, bear up. Zeus, who oversees and directs all things, is still mighty in heaven. The cave is one of the most potent symbols in world mythology. It is a spot where opposites meet, where gods hide, nature spirits dwell, and portals to the underworld can be found. In Greek mythology, caves serve all these functions. Perhaps most famous of all is the Dictaean cave, which was home to baby Zeus as he eluded capture from his father Cronos. Prophecy held that one of Cronos' children would overthrow him, and he proceeded to swallow all his children that his wife Rhea conceived. But Rhea was wiser and hid Zeus in the cave, where he was nurtured by Almathea. To keep Cronos from hearing the infant's cries, the Curetes, a band of Daimones, enacted their sacred dance in front of the cave to conceal the infant's cries from his cannibalistic father. Elsewhere in Greek and Roman mythology, caves are places where gods are born and live their mysterious lives, directing the course of history from deep inside their dark lairs. Eileithyia, the goddess of childbirth and midwifery, was born in a sacred cave. The cave itself is associated with birth. It is the womb of the earth. Somnus, the god of sleep, lives in a dark cave that the sun cannot enter, just like the cave of Plato. And the winds that control the fates of sailors are housed in Aeolus's cave. Hermes, the messenger god, was born in a cave. He is also a psychopomp, a guide to the underworld, and a master of omens and prophecy. Caves are places of knowledge and wisdom. Both the Cumaean Sibyl and the Delphic Sibyl made their prophecies in caves. Fittingly, Socrates, the mouthpiece of Plato's allegory of the cave, was declared the wisest man by the Oracle of Delphi in her cave because only he could admit that all he knew was that he knew nothing. The Oracle of Delphi has been associated with the Carytian cave on Mount Parnassus north of Delphi. The monstrous dragon Python was sent to guard the Oracle of Delphi, who was slain by Apollo to establish his own oracle. But the Carytian cave has an even deeper history in Greek myth. During Zeus and Typhon's cosmic battle, Typhon was able to imprison Zeus in the cave. Ironically for Zeus, caves became both his sanctuary and his prison. While Zeus was locked in the cave, Typhon had it guarded by the dragon Delphine until Hermes and Aegipon were finally able to free him. The cave was also thought to be home to the Carytian nymphs. These naiads, or water nymphs, were thought to reside inside the cave. This included Melena, Cleodora, and Carytia, who had a child with Apollo and gave the cave its name. The god Pan became associated with nymphs and was also worshipped at the site. By far the most famous encounters in caves from Greco-Roman myth can be found in Homer's Odyssey, where Odysseus and his companions are imprisoned by the giant Polyphemus, son of Poseidon. Odysseus hatches a genius plan to escape by telling the giant his name is Nobody. He got Polyphemus drunk and stabbed him in his single eye with a burning stake. As the giant cried out, his companions asked what was wrong, to which Polyphemus replied that nobody was attacking him. Like Zeus, the cave for Odysseus was both a site of imprisonment and rebirth. Along Odysseus' travels, he had to pass between the whirlpool Charybdis and the sea monster Scylla, who lives in a fog-bound cavern described as a terrifying pit and a realm of darkness and death. Odysseus' final cave journey comes on the island of Ogygia, where he is kept against his will for 7 years by the nymph Calypso. Once again, we see the cave as a combination of opposites, as this is both a prison and a place of luxury and pleasure, until he is finally released and allowed to continue his journey. In Greek mythology, caves serve as both a sanctuary and a prison, but they can also be portals to the underworld. Orpheus entered the underworld through a sacred cave at Cape Tanaron, and Pluto's Gate is at an ancient cave site in what is now modern Turkey that was thought to be an entry to the realm of Hades. But Greek mythology is not the only place where caves are thought to be passages to another plane of existence. In Celtic mythology, caves are thought to be the entrance to the otherworld, a place where time and space operate differently, where dwell the Sidhe, the godlike fairies of Celtic lore. One such cave from Irish mythology is Owain Agat, the so-called Cave of the Cats, located in the Neolithic Rathcrogan complex and referred to as the Irish Gate to Hell in the medieval period after Christianization. The cave is often associated with the ancient harvest festival Samhain and is said to be the home of the Morrigan, an Irish goddess of death and destiny. In the Irish Ulster Cycle, a collection of medieval Irish legends and sagas, that same complex is said to be the home of the legendary Queen Medb. Caves are places where the once and future king is both found and awaits his return. Merlin's Cave is a legendary site beneath Tintagel Castle, which has been associated with King Arthur since the work of Geoffrey of Monmouth in the 12th century. In Tennyson's Idylls of the Kings, it was on the shores outside of the cave that Merlin found Arthur and raised him to be the king he was destined to be. But some Arthurian lore holds that he is awaiting his return in a mystical cave, ready to return when Britain needs him most. For the Aztecs, caves are also the entry point to the underworld. The Maya say that they are entrances to Xibalba, where the 12 Maya death gods reign. But like the Greeks, Native Americans see them as both places of rebirth and mystery. Hopi mythology says that humans first emerged from caves, while the Miwok of California say that caves are the domain of Yayali, a rock giant who will try to lure people into their depths. Myths of creatures like Yayali point to another key aspect of the cultural importance of caves. They are also the domain of monsters. The mythological three-headed dog Cerberus was encountered by Aeneas and Sibyl on his way to the underworld. Like Harry Potter, Aeneas had to induce the monster to sleep before he could pass into the next realm. Both the Hydra and Caucus, a terrifying troll, were said to live in caves. So were harpies and the terrifying Gorgon Medusa. Perhaps the most famous cave-dwelling monster is the dragon, who, in European lore, is thought to inhabit these dark and mysterious places. For example, the famous Polish dragon of Wawel was said to live in a cave by the Vistula River by the 16th century chronicler Marcin Bielski. In the Mabinogion, a medieval compilation of Welsh mythology, dragons are imprisoned in underground caves. In Tolkien's Legendarium, which draws heavily from the Mabinogion, it is in the dwarves' lonely mountain that Smaug the Tyrannical lives. Dwarves and gnomes as a whole are said to inhabit caves and mines. In my home state of Colorado, there is lore of Tommyknockers, which are trickster elves that will either help or harm miners based on how they are treated, and these beings are related to Cornish knockers and Germanic gnomes. Caves have been associated with supernatural creatures in American folklore. By far the most famous is the Bell Witch Cave. Between 1817 and 1821, the Bell family in Robertson County, Tennessee, were reportedly tormented by a shape-shifting and clairvoyant entity known as the Bell Witch. After leaving the family, it is believed that she fled to the famous cave on the Bell's property. The cave is also one of the most important symbols in Christianity. There are in fact two sacred caves in the Christian religion, the Cave of the Nativity, as well as the Cave of Jesus' death and resurrection. Again, we see the symbolism of death and rebirth. Further, the Nativity is associated with the womb and the Virgin Mary. Caves were integral to the rites of Mithraism, a Roman mystery religion which centers around the Tauroctony, which is the slaying of a cosmic bull by the eponymous god Mithras to give birth to the world. The cave is one of the great mysteries of humankind. Our ancestors revered them. They were the places where ancient hominids buried their dead as long as 250,000 years ago. Mythologies hold that humans emerged from caves at their very beginning. They are sites that hold the mysteries of the afterlife, where the individual must pass through a phase of catabasis, of a dissolution of the self, to confront the darkness within. These natural, beautiful, and terrifying holes in the earth are simultaneously the homes of gods and monsters, of death and rebirth, of this world and the afterlife. It is where, according to Plato, metaphysical mysteries are held, if the initiate is brave enough to explore their depths.